I'm going to show you a few different folder structures, and I'm going to talk about each of them. The exact system that you're using to organize all of your files doesn't necessarily matter. There's more than one way to skin an avocado. I think the phrase is actually cat, but that's a little bit more morbid. I don't care necessarily how you do it, as long as you are doing it and you're asking the right questions. So let's run through some organizations. So this is for a corporate celebration event that I handled a few years ago. This is probably the very most basic typical file organization that I use pretty much all the time. Now we need to cover this real quick. The term RAW can refer to two different things. RAW meaning number one is when it's used in hard drives. RAW in this context means the original footage, the stuff that was filmed on set, the unedited, untouched stuff that comes directly from the production team. That's RAW footage. RAW is also a video format. It's less compressed than other video formats and has a lot more information in it. So typically when I say raw footage, I mean the crude original stuff that came from the production team. When I say raw video, I'm talking about a video format, and only certain cameras are capable of recording raw. So when it's in your hard drive, it is the crude, unedited footage. Usually in RAW, you're going to have space for your main camera and your main sound, and then maybe others. So sometimes I'll have camera A, camera B, camera C. Sometimes I'll have audio setup 1, audio setup 2. Sometimes if there's something filmed on a different day or is substantially different than the rest of the footage, I'll have something separate. So here, testimonials were given their own folder. Now, this was all one day. I'll show you another one that has multiple dates. Within the camera, this shoot had 3 cameras and an audio field recorder. This footage was sent to me, and for some reason, the audio field recorder was in the camera folder. I've already worked on this thing, so I don't want to move anything around anymore, but this audio field recorder should have been in with the audio here. So there were 3 cameras, and those cameras each had a different setup. So this was camera 1. You can see this footage is really ugly. They unfortunately did not get a very good videographer for this event, but that's the first camera, kind of a medium shot on the right. It's the main camera. It's a wide angle of the stage. Typically, when you get your raw footage, you don't want to reorganize it. Raw footage is sacred. It is expensive. Raw footage took days or weeks to produce, potentially cost crazy tons of money to produce, and it can very easily, even accidentally, be deleted with a few button clicks. So raw footage is sacred. I don't really understand 100% of why this was organized the way that it was. This is not the way that I would have organized it, but I wasn't on set that day. So this is how it was given to me. My rule of thumb is I can reorganize it in my editing software, but I will not reorganize the source files. Leave the raw as it is. There is a small exception to that rule. If it's absolutely unbearably atrocious and you can't handle working with it in that format, there is a potential reality where you duplicate the raw folder and make it a new folder and then reorganize it how you need to. You can always reorganize how you want to reorganize inside of your editing software. Even if the DIT didn't know what they're doing, which in this case they did not know what they were doing, and even if it's not organized correctly, you can make the organization correct in the editing software. Raw footage is sacred, don't touch it. Now media, sometimes I'll call this assets. This is stuff that I got after the fact. This is stuff that I, as an editor, accumulated while I was editing. The company sent me their official font families so that I could use them in graphics. Kept them here. I got a few graphical assets, like their logo. Kept them here. I got their royalty-free music so that I could include it in the videos. Kept it in here. I got their PowerPoint slides to include with every speech. Media is basically post-production assets. Often when I'm posting stuff to social media and I can do a custom thumbnail like on YouTube, I will make a thumbnail, and typically I will make its own folder just so that it's separate from other stuff, because these are always their own assets. Exports should always be its own folder. These are your cuts as they come out of Premiere. Now you can see I have pass 1, pass 2, pass 3. That's because I sent these and not all of them were accepted by the client. I needed to fix some of them up. So I did extra passes. Almost everybody who's ever done anything creative as a student knows the curse of the final, the finished for sure, the finally finished for sure, the done, the done, the done, the completed, finished, done for sure. I don't even know anymore. I don't care. Files. The way that I avoid that is versioning. You can see conference testimonial version 1. They weren't happy with it. I did a version 2. They weren't happy with it. I did a version 3. We can be confident that conference testimonial 01 underscore version 3 is the final version of this video because I don't see a version 4 anywhere. So versioning is the first important naming convention. I version pretty much anything that I work on. If I make a new export, I version it. If I open my project file, before I do that, I version it. I version everything all of the time. It gives you so much flexibility and understanding what came before and what came after, and what we changed and why we changed it. Especially when you're versioning your sequences, you can go back to older versions of your edit and have a lot more flexibility and power and not lose any of your work. So version everything. Then of course, project files. Remember when we talked about setting up the project and how you could determine where you wanted your scratch disks to go? These are the Adobe Scratch disks. Audio previews, autosave, captured audio. I usually set up my Premiere project file to be in here. And then I have the Scratch disks stay there. And then I will make a ZZ old folder. So you can see in the old folder, version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5, version 6, version 7, version 8, all the way, well, there was multiple version 8s there, but all the way to version 20. And my most recent is version 21. This is to make sure that I always know what the most recent version is and that it's safe. It's the same naming convention. Year, month, day, title, version, initials. The year, month, day is related to the last time that it was opened. So you'll update it for each time that you reopen it. Then the title stays the same. Then the version number goes up every time the project file is duplicated, and then you add your initials on the end, which makes it really easy when you're on a team. If the person editing after you has any questions, they know who to go to. So if I was to open this up right now, I would not double click and immediately open it because I don't want to mess up the old versions in case something needs to be brought up later on. Instead, I'm going to Command D in order to duplicate. And then I'm going to rename it. And I would rename it today's date. This would now be version 22, and it would have my initials. Now, I would move this old version to my ZZ old folder so that I have it in an archive. If this new version that I just made gets corrupted, or I accidentally make huge catastrophic errors and I can't fix them, if something goes wrong here, I can go back to my previous versions. That's a big reason why we do this. We're trying to save our work as much as possible. So now I can open this up and I can do whatever I want to it. And I can know that even if I make serious errors or I drastically change what's going on in this project, I have the old ones saved and no work is lost. Let's look at another one. Now this was a 48-hour film that I did several years ago with a bunch of friends. And this one was a little bit different. This time, instead of having RAW as part of the main root folder structure, we separated all of the working files from the original set files. I think a big reason for this was because we started working on the project before we were done filming, and so we wanted to keep the RAW separate so that it could constantly be updated and so that we could work as a team. It made the most sense at the time. We kept our RAW and our live separate. So you'll see in RAW, we had video and audio, and we continually dumped into this video folder. Now, I would not have done this way. I don't know if somebody else might have been doing DIT at the time. I also potentially did part of this. This, in my mind nowadays, is a big no-no. I do not believe that you should rename and reorganize the source files. That's scary to me. The reason that's scary is because if you accidentally make some mistakes and you delete something or corrupt something, now we don't have that shot anymore. So again, what I would have done is this should have been video, and then it would have been card 1, card 2, and that would have contained all of the information from the clip, nothing else. These scene numbers and descriptors should not be the title of the original footage. It should be the way that we describe the clips when they're in Premiere. But this is how we did it, I guess. And again, you're getting hired as the editor, so you're going to get footage in whatever forms it comes. It could be like this. And then audio. Okay, so again, everything was named as the source audio. So project files, the same. The naming convention was slightly different, but it was clear for all of us. We have a ZZ old folder. This honestly is too much information unless you're working in TV broadcasting or you have a creative team of 5 or 6 people. But this is absolutely valid. This was the year and the project that year. This was the client. This was the title of the project. This was the year, month, day. This was the version. It was the initials. And then this last one, main, we would do that to delineate sometimes when things got rushed. We had multiple people working on the same project file. That gets scary because you can easily accidentally duplicate work. So what we would do is we would have a main editor have a main project. And that is where all of the other ancillary project files would get pulled back into. So this main one, so we don't have those ancillary side project files. They were probably on whatever computers that people were working with at the time. But eventually, all of the work that they were doing got pulled back into this main project file. Now, that's another thing to not get confused about. You can version up throughout the day and then restart the versioning every time you have a new date, or you can continuously version up. So for this project, we were versioning up and resetting every day. So you can see on the 8th, we went version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, and version 5. And then on the 9th, we started the versions over. So this was version 1 from the 9th, and then version 2, version 3, version 4. But on that corporate one that I just showed you, I was doing universal versioning instead of date reset versioning. So you can see on the 8th, this was version 1. On the 18th, I was version 3. On the 2nd of December, I was version 6. On the 7th of December, I was version 7. And on the 14th of January, I was version 18. So it was one universal versioning number. Both work. I've used both. You just need to pick one for each project and stay consistent. Let's look at another one. So here you can say we have multiple days. They knew it was only a 2-day shoot, so they didn't date the RAW, even though I would have. And the RAW didn't even get its own folder. It's all in the root folder. But you can see everything that they recorded for day 1 is in here. And everything that they recorded for day 2 is in here. The same thing with the visuals. And then you have an exports folder. There's only one in there. You have a graphics folder. You have the project folder, which is the same thing. All your old versions and then your new version. With music videos, where I was the director, cinematographer, and editor, I kept things a little bit simpler. You can see I have sequences, which is the project files, although there's just 2 copies, so I'm not actually sure which one is the most accurate one, so that's bad. I have footage, and footage is interesting because I kept multiple things in here. So there were a few test shots that I did. Then there was an animatic. An animatic is basically a video version of a storyboard. So that's an animatic. Then there's the raw from our shoot. And you can see we shot a lot and we didn't have very big cards. So there are 6 cards here. This is the root of what it looks like when you get a Canon camera. There's DCIM and there's miscellaneous. Ignore miscellaneous. It's just there for metadata reasons. Then there's 100 Canon and there's Canon MSC. Ignore MSC. It's just there for metadata reasons. And in 100 Canon, you have the footage. So that was all of our shoot. But we shot in like 4K or 6K RAW, and my computer was having a hard time handling all of it at the same time. So I made proxies. Now, we'll get more into this when we talk about actually making them, but a quick description. A proxy is a smaller version of a video file exported to use less computing power while you're editing. It's essentially a small computer-friendly version. Now, sometimes we want to shoot in 6K and we want to release in 4 or 6K. So it needs to be really pretty when we first originally capture the footage. And our computer does have the power to then turn around and export it looking just as pretty. However, live playback of your sequences all chopped up the way that they are often requires a lot more computing power, and your computer has a hard time managing all of it. So you'll start getting really choppy, crappy, slow playback that drops a lot of frames. You can't edit and understand the pacing that you're creating when it's dropping frames. No can do, son. When that's the case, when we have really, really pretty, really uncompressed footage that we want to release pretty, but we can't edit with because the computing required is too intense, we will make proxies. We'll talk about how to make those in a minute. So I made proxies for this music video, and this is where I put them, in the footage section right next to the originals. These were post-production files, media assets, and then these are the exports.